Hey, hey, everybody! It's Mike, and we're waiting. Welcome to. How's everybody doing? I don't think I need those. Can you guys hear me? Okay, or how's the sound? Welcome. It's Mike from Reelblack, and live streaming. We're expecting Charles to be with us at 8. Can you hear? And then the next question. I see the room's filling up. Peace. Can you hear me? I can't. I can't tell a thing the way we're doing this. Good. Okay. Cool. So I'm holed up here in undisclosed location in Delaware, awaiting Charles to call. We talked 2 nights ago, and he had so much on his mind. I said, "You got to call in and we got to do a live stream," and he agreed. And then he texted me at 4, literally after I announced that we'd be doing a live stream, and he said he's still in Harlem taking care of some business, so expecting. And his phone just died, so I didn't want to let people down and change things, and but we are a little bit on CP time. Wow, this is our biggest turnout ever. Instantly, we got 136 people in the room. So let me do my best to entertain people. How y'all doing? It's weird. It's like I usually have like music and stuff playing and everything, but they demonetize the streams when we play music and stuff. You're in Dallas. Yeah, give a roll call your city or your area code. Right now I'm 215, but I'm in the whatever Wilmington, Delaware is, 3 something. Somebody probably knows better than I do what the stuff. But yeah, we've been on hiatus in a way. And I'll give you some information in a second. Alexander Williams. Wow. Okay. He always checks in. I know that name. If Charles is here, he recognizes a lot more names than I do. Baba Dick. We got some Georgia people. 302. That's where I am. I'm in 302. That's Delaware. 219, New Jersey. So we're catching a lot of people right after dinner. And with Shannon from Philly, Bay Area. Okay, so still kind of early there. Toronto, that's East Coast. Kentucky. Anybody not in the United States or continental or North America, let's say, outside of this stuff. And I hope everybody. Oh, we got Pasadena in the building. Nobody in the UK. I hope everybody is safe. I think one of the things, like, we've been asked for the longest to talk about what was going on in this political crisis, economic crisis, health crisis, and spiritual crises that are happening in June, July, the summer of 2020. And, for the most part, I mean, especially being on the East Coast, we just know so many people directly or indirectly that were really suffering from Corona. We didn't want to put anything into the ether that would kind of hurt people or damage people or fuel the fire of conspiracy or things like that. So we, instead of that, we just sort of ramped up more information. And I can honestly say, happy to report that we have the last 2 months have been the biggest months in terms of new subscribers. So in the past few days, I try not to recycle material, but I've been taking little snippets from some of the most viewed videos and sharing them on Instagram and on YouTube, so that people who may not have been aware of the videos when were posted, or maybe they saw them and they need a reminder. We've been doing a series called Why We Fight, which is sort of like a sort of snippets of the best of what the channel is. And I know a lot of people like the Black empowerment stuff, and a lot of people like the movies. And doing the best we can to keep both factions satisfied and stay out of trouble so that we can continue to share things. So thank you everyone who's helped to make us a success. And both Charles and I have been sequestered in our own spaces, trying to get more material out to you. And I'm happy to report, I think it's July 12th, we'll be in Moppenstown Film Festival online. Online with Savages, Servants, and Specialty Acts. So we're still in the midst of making this film, but if you go there, you can check out the latest project that Charles and I have been working on, and I'll try to show. I'll put a trailer together between now and the 12th so people can get a taste of it. Is people start trolling us yet? Because I probably need to set up a mod in a second if people are starting to troll. But everybody, Perth Amboy 404, Johnny Quango in the UK, Texas Loretta, Bancroft 109th. I'm not sure what that is, Ty. Are you on the service? Bancroft 109th? Appreciate the love. Your people are enjoying the movies. What can I say? We're trying. We're really excited that people are growing. There's a thirst for knowledge, and fortunately, we're in a position to share a lot of information. And what's great about the YouTube platform is that it's global. It reaches a lot of people instantaneously, and then also with the comments, we notice that we're tracking a lot of really intelligent people. And I always say the smart folks are the ones that are going to win in this. That there's certain things that are designed a certain way, and even when I was starting, I think the first project I was working on, I was talking to Warrington Hudlin, and he was the head of the Black Filmmaker Foundation. He and Reggie Hudlin helped found the Black Filmmaker Foundation. I was an intern there, and it's about 10 years ago. I had the desire to do a film called Black Film Now, and we went to get his blessing, just like what information do we need to know before we get started, just to have his blessing basically, and get an understanding, and try and get some people connections on board to discuss things. And he said, it's the same thing all the time. It goes in waves, where, and I'm not talking about racial stuff specifically, but in terms of Black film, there'll be cycles where there's a lot of attention drawn to it, and then there'll be periods where it's not thought of. And if you live long enough, you see the waves coming and going, and so it's nothing new. And I think one of the things that people clearly can see through just looking at the videos on the channel is just how previous generations have addressed these same topics over the course of decades, centuries, and in terms of what the questions are: justice, economic justice, racial equity, equality, what have you. And we gotta have a good one. It'll go up later tonight that somebody shared with me. It's Who Killed MLK. But seriously, it's great to see that there's so much more awareness and action being taken. Charles has a lot of opinions about Trump, and hopefully he'll call in, and I won't keep you past 9 if he doesn't. But I'm happy to address any questions. Who? Oh, okay. Oh, Cosmo's there to mod. Okay. Um, or did I set him up as a mod? I have no idea what's going on with that wrench. We do not want to take donations at this point. It's not that we're allergic to money. It's just, um, we're trying to grow organically and put people in a position for them to support Charles's project when it's done. So the deal is, in my mind, the channel. What surprised me with the quarantine, I didn't expect this level of growth so quickly. But it becomes exponential. Like if the first 100,000 subscribers, let's say, it took 6 years to build to that, right? Then to get to 200,000, it might be another year. Our big milestone was that 100,000 with the plaque, and then that was like 2 years ago. So now we're at 600,000 subscribers. So we're seeing a more, because of programming and the nature of social media and internet and YouTube, we're seeing exponential growth in our subscriber base, and that's helping us to grow organically. I don't feel comfortable taking money because then, in my personal experience, I did that, and I could be wrong for thinking this. When we were growing at this kind of rate in brick and mortar, which was when I was hosting monthly movie screenings, and it was a big, much greater tax on my time, energy, and resources to hand out movie passes. We got to a point where uh, there was a finite amount of passes that were available, but we had an increase in number of people that were finding out about us. And somebody said, "Hey, you should charge money to, alleviate the pressure on you and give priority to people that really are interested in supporting your organization." And the minute I made that decision, everything flattened off. There are a lot of people that, and then also I discovered that, mentally, I was doing things to cater just to the small number of people that were paying the $25 a year subsidy, as opposed to trying to get the biggest group of people and increase the mailing list and all those kind of things. So it wasn't necessarily fear that struck in, but I noticed the same kind of thing with a GoFundMe or with Patreon or even Cash App, that to justify a perk, now I'm working harder to generate content than I normally would, just for a very small number of people, as opposed to just making everything available and making people to determine their own value that they would place on it. So what we're trying to do right now is just get people to share the content with as many people as possible. Let us grow organically, and then when we are at the point, like I said, I should show you I can't, it's like somebody, hotel room, Riverview, and cats over there. When we're in a position to bring things to market, which for me would be getting screenplays done, for Charles getting his book written and having his documentary series in place, then we have physical material that we can market and sell that's original. But right now, it just kind of feels like dirty money in a sense, because I'd say more than half of the interest in the channel comes from people that are interested in watching content that we didn't originate ourselves. So just on a karmic level, I don't want to absorb that guilt. And I also, and from an experience position, I don't want to take on the belief that I've got to suddenly cater to a small number of people when the reality is that we're gaining so many new people every day. And I certainly don't want to create a perception that I'm profiting uh, off of other people's work when, my desire is just to make people feel more empowered and smarter and share things. And I think that's the basic different definition for me. My boundary is that information should be free, but creativity, should go for market value. And in my belief, um, the highest possible value. So I don't want to undervalue my creativity, and I certainly don't want to start giving people a sense that they're paying for information. So anyway, why is Dolomite talking about all this stuff? Trump. All right, so we have a little chatter going on the same. So I said, look, I'm in KK. I mean, right now things are fine, but at the same time, it's not in our control. I mean, you can see what's going on. We've been shut down twice already because of copyright claims. We try to be ahead of that and be smart in terms of what we share. But there's an idea that this could be ephemeral. We're trying to solidify our base in a different way. And right now, YouTube is paying bills. You don't really see a lot of content or a lot of my energy going anywhere else outside of YouTube because they're pretty consistent in terms of the revenue splits that we're getting. What we get enough from the YouTube right now to be able for me to work on this full time and to pursue my other creative endeavors. So I could be completely wrong about it, but my belief is, once we ask for the money, it won't be $5 or $25 or $100. It'll be something substantial that not only allows us to do the next thing greater, but amplifies everything that we've done up until now. But that's a whole nother story. Whose money and whose resources and who gets to say what. But I just feel more comfortable not asking or putting my hand out because, and Charles, he would probably co-sign it. It also, kind of contradicts our ability to be contrary. I think a lot of times people with these platforms or any platform, once they see where their support is, it makes it very difficult for them to say things that would go against their constituents. That's a bigger word than I wanted to pull out. But you understand what I'm saying? Just like a politician, he's supposed to serve the whole population. He ends up in service of the people who pay for him to stay in office. That's my relationship. And that's my feeling about taking money from donors when it comes to this kind of thing. So we want to create opportunities for you to invest, not just to support. I'm doing okay right now. I got my Wegmans iced tea, and I'm chilling with my outer beans, chocolate chip cookies, and I'm happy with that. And I don't like, we'll see what happens in the future. A year from now, it'll be maybe a different story. Donations completely voluntary. Yeah, I understand. Tell me if you think the Black community should grow their own community. I can get into that. I have strong opinions about Black empowerment that don't that are not what Charles would be talking about. Charles really wanted to talk about just the whole political system and the election coming up and things like that. So, um, hang on, add moderator for Alex. And I thought Cosmo. Okay, is Cosmo modding, and then did I just do? Okay, there's some infighting between Alexander and Cosmo. Work that out, guys. Because Alex, he's a good guy. I don't know why his message got deleted, but or maybe I deleted them by mistake. Um, yeah, figure that out. I'm sorry, Alexander, but I did mod you. So Black empowerment. So the thing, what's been interesting, and I hope everybody's safe and the virus is under control. I mean, to me, it's really interesting because it just shows you what human nature is about. It's like the minute something leaves the news cycle, we start to think that it's been solved, and common sense dictates that it hasn't, and that we need to be more aware than ever about things. But also, what's been great about this cycle, this wave, is that so much information is coming out, and everybody has an opinion, and we have information to back it up. It's not just our feelings and our emotions. We literally can see with cameras and documentation and articles that we can make up our own minds, basically. At this stage in the game, you can pay attention to media, or you can seek things out on your own and fact check on your own and get your own level of truth in terms of what's changing. But what's interesting to me is, and I just before I jumped on, I was reading this thing, Ice Cube going at the Daily Beast about some article, and I read the article and saw what they were tweeting and everything. And I remember, like, I haven't been following that story for much. He just seemed to go on this rant for a couple days, but it seemed like his ask was, for Hollywood to suddenly start Black film divisions that would finance sequels and things like somehow there are a lot of movies by established Black talent that weren't getting made because of various reasons. And what's interesting, and anytime you hit these waves, uh, who gets to be on board is a question. So a lot of times you'll see new talent emerge from these awarenesses. It used to be, and I'm old enough to remember, when Black stories were either on television or in movie theaters, and after the Blaxploitation cycle ended, you might get one movie a year with a Black cast, and then a big movie every 6, 7, 8 years that would encapsulate all the talent that was coming in. So you would have a drought, and then you get a soldier story, or you drought and then you get a Color Purple, or it'll be a drought and then when I came into the story, it was 87, 86, 87. She's Got to Have It, Hollywood Shuffle kicks in, and then that establishes a marketplace and a new style of younger voices telling stories with Black people. Audience through music, hip hop audience opens up. And then 91 is a big year with Boys in the Hood. 91, 92, Boys in the Hood. And, so the big cover for New York Times Magazine, They Gotta Have Us. And then that starts another wave. But the people that were getting in, they weren't necessarily hiring the people that were popular the previous wave to be in these movies. They were getting people in that wanted to be on the ground floor, that could work for cheap. hadn't been tainted too much, and they tended to be film school people. So it was sort of like the what happened for Hollywood in the '70s, where black exploitation and young people, Easy Rider, saved Hollywood then. And they were so desperate they let people out of film school like the Francis Ford Coppola's, the Steven Spielberg's, the George Lucas come in the door, and they created blockbuster movies and redefined what Hollywood was. Black people got that opportunity in '91, where it's like, oh wow, we can sell this, and Spike Lee comes in, John Singleton comes in, so on and so forth. But so for a long time, you just got that kind of flavor of black storytelling, which was this educated, people are going in film school, you're in college, so you have an educated middle class background. The stories are being told, and then the pendulum swung the other way to Master P, where it was like, none of that speaks to me. I'm about it, And then for the next 6, 7 years, you got a lot. You saw that there was a market for lower budget, almost straight to video movies. It was like an incessant need at Blockbuster to just have movies with black people on the cover, and York Maverick, people like that fulfilled that role. So those were the beginnings of the digital technology or video technology creating more opportunity for stories to be told. Now we're at this point where anybody with a phone basically has a camera, and they can document things. And we've almost bypassed. I mean, Netflix has bought up the market basically the last 3 years, because you're not going to see a first-time filmmaker, black or white, with sizable budget to make something that is going to be promoted to Oscars. But what you would get for a long time is a place like Sundance that would premiere a film in January that was sort of like a first-time film or a low-budget film or film with some name actors, but it was not expensive. And from that, Hollywood would cherry pick those movies, and one or two would make it into theaters and be promoted, like a Fruitvale Station, or not a black film by any stretch, but Beasts of the Southern Wilds was a big movie that got plucked. But then the two things happened. There was a backlash against it with Birth of a Nation, Nate Parker. That January is right after the very first Oscars So White hashtag campaign. So everybody was looking for a quality film that they could release and market to theaters, just to justify that Oscars aren't so white. We got a black movie that's Oscar caliber, and we're going to push it to the finish line. And Fox, of all people, bought it for one of the highest prices ever paid for a movie at Sundance. And then, of course, the scandal breaks out, and they tank it. So that happened, where basically the movie didn't make its money back. But at the same time, you have 15 other films that now they see, well, we can't necessarily spend the money to market these things in theaters, but there's a huge audience on streaming for them. So that's when you start to see Netflix buying everything up. That's kind of what put me out of business. Like, there's no window anymore for a festival. In the past, like when I started a movie, I mean, even Ava DuVernay, how we started was, there was always a movie by black filmmakers that didn't get picked up at Sundance, and how come we can't get these things in the theaters? But nobody anticipated streaming would be such a thing, and it's one of those games where if you just finished a movie, you're broke and you have to pay your investors back. So this was a place where Netflix could just buy up an Imperial Dreams. That was a movie that sat for 3 years on a shelf, but then make them whole, allow this guy to, continue to work, buy up just everything. Now they have a marketing plan where it's like strong black lead, which is it tells you everything. It's like who's in front of the camera, the black lead, not necessarily who's behind the camera, who's writing the checks. So now we're getting sort of, in my opinion, we're getting sort of the same flavor of black film again, but it just happens to be catered around what a streaming audience is interested in. But and all of it is sort of being bought up by one entity, which can be good. My feeling is that if you're going to get stuff for cheap, work deals in where Netflix gives you a first look at your next thing, or almost guarantees you a second film. I've seen too many movies get acquired by these streamers for basically sticker price, below sticker price, what the movie actually cost to make, the negative cost to make the film, uh, whether they put money into promoting it. Not everybody can just get on Twitter and tweet, go see my movie and have it work. So a lot of the success and failure of a movie is how much effort is put behind making people aware. And I haven't been on Netflix so much, but just seeing like they'll have trending top tens and things like that to try and steer people into certain directions now. But in terms of empowering people, I mean, I don't know if the answer is we need another Friday movie, Ice Cube. I don't think people are begging for Are We There Yet, part 15, but what I do feel is that until there's a pipeline in place that's controlled and migrates to that has the ability to reach the audience that you want, and that we as Black people value the content, because right now so much of what is made for us we're not paying for, at least we're not supporting. It's almost like politics, we get trampled over by government because we're not putting our money where our mouth is. We wait until it's time to complain. We're not proactive about the things that we want. So now it's sort of a energy where you have a lot of great artists making things, but they're primarily making it for themselves, and then it's being marketed as if that's what we asked for. And that's not how Hollywood typically works in any other cycle, because what happens is in the white paradigm, if you have a new talent that's very promising and they make a movie for no money, they can piggyback their way into The Matrix or piggyback their way into Dark Knight, or get the opportunity to really project a bigger vision of the kind of movies that they're led into. It's like Willy Wonka for them. They're led into the whole candy store where, so I'm talking about Christopher Nolan specifically, who did a movie called Following and then Memento, which were like no budget movies that played theaters. And now he's talk of the town. I'm talking about Paul Thomas Anderson, who continues to make small esoteric movies, but basically has access to the best talent in Hollywood and pays them what they're worth. Nobody's working for less money on a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Or classmate of mine, Todd Phillips, his first movie was a documentary about a punk rock guy that played Sundance, and just by being at Sundance, he created the opportunity to do Road Trip and has made a name for himself in these big comedy movies. What I'm not seeing is the same type of, like Ava DuVernay is an anomaly, but what I'm saying is if you go down the line of Black filmmakers or women filmmakers even, sometimes they might get a shot at doing a big budget movie that they're not quite primed for, like a franchise movie. and it's not necessarily a fun experience for them, like a Thomas Nance tied to Space Jam 2 and quitting or being let go after a week. That wasn't a good look as far for anybody. I mean, who could imagine that even completing itself, you know? But he got to see inside the machine. But so in terms of empowering people, if you sell a movie for cheap to a streamer, they should at least give you a first look or some sort of deal that's on the table where they're helping to cultivate and nurture your career. And one of the things that you should be aware of is we talk about this a lot. Black Panther wouldn't have existed if not for Forrest Whitaker putting the $3 million together for Fruitvale Station to happen. And we're talking about Ryan Coogler, who's one of the top students at USC, certainly trained to work inside the Hollywood machine. And what Fruitvale was his third or fourth pitch. He had scripts that had written, and they said, "All right, well, we like this, but no." But the door was still open. He came back. He came back. The third time he came back, it was Fruitvale Station, and from that film alone, it created opportunities for him to at least I have a calling card. I can work with these actors. He got a key to the kingdom that led us to Creed 2, Black Panther, and to the point where he's now not only directing films, but he's passing off directing duties and producing duties to his classmates. So that's a level that or pattern we should see more of. And then, I read it every day. We should own our own. And in a perfect world, that'd be true. I mean, but I think what happens is people really get frustrated over not eating. And it's actually very interesting. There's a video on Afro-Marxist that I tweeted. He's a good guy. YouTube, put it here, but it's Kwame Ture, and he was talking about the nature of unrest. It's like you have to have a plan. There has to be a plan in place for you to get what you want, right? And a lot of times, he said, Martin Luther King, his plan was just to get attention to the injustice. It wasn't necessarily have an organized list of asks. And I think that's what's lacking right now in this cycle. Everybody's mad about something, but not everybody's mad about the same thing or has the same idea of what a solution should be. So that's ultimately what's going to create the confusion is, everybody is piling on, and we all feel the same frustration. The analogy is like for decades, if not centuries, since the beginning of time, water occasionally falls from the sky. Until we have a name for it and we can process it and decide what to do with it, it's just water falling from the sky. It's a genius that calls it rain, and it says, "Oh, this is if we capture this, it's more pure than what we're getting out of the ocean, and we can drink it. We can grow plants. We can irrigate. We can do So what is all this water that's falling from the sky that everyone's feeling right now? A lot of it is coming from our frustration. Hopefully, it's not the tears of God, raining down on us. But my point being, he said, everybody, I wrote it down too. You can be mad at something, but if you're not channeling that energy into specific asks, then you start to realize that people have their own agendas. And if being mad at something doesn't mean you're for the same thing. You can be against something and not be for something else. So a lot of times I think people have this anxiety when they notice that Black Lives Matter protests are being taken over by white people. It's very clear their agenda is not the same as what a black person waving that same sign is going to be. So I just feel like if that's what people wanted, independence, independent films, independent black film, we've always had enough money around to support our own infrastructure. Not necessarily saying we control the technology to the point where we need to be building our own cameras or even creating our own streaming platforms. Although I just read that Issa Rae's invested in one of the alternative streaming platforms today. Ownership is important. Ownership gives you a seat at the table. Money is power in this capitalistic society. And in a perfect world, we wouldn't be throwing our money away or giving it to people who are going to use it and not give anything back to us. So I think that's a level of frustration that's always existed in terms of creativity. And as one person, I don't necessarily know if I have the answer yet. I'm turning down money. I know people want to give us some coin to do it, but if that was what people really wanted, we would have been here by now. But it to me, it's hypocritical for Ice Cube to turn this movement, this moment, into his own complaint. And I think it's narrow-minded. I didn't read the Dana Owens thing, what she's doing, Queen Latifah, but the first thing I saw with her and the open letter that was signed to Hollywood, I'm like, why? Okay, why would you sign a petition and you still have your hand out? It doesn't make sense to me. You have enough money, you could just start from where you are and make something and take it to the streets or take it to the people and sell it directly. I mean, I just finished reading Kevin Smith's book. I like Kevin Smith. He did the movie Clerks, New Jersey guy. And he was at a crossroads where he came in through Harvey Weinstein, and he saw Harvey's empire. No, not talking about any of the allegations or anything. He saw Harvey's empire get co-opted by Disney. He said they started out trying to stick it to the man, and then when Disney came in and bought them, they had more resources, but they took less risk, and they ended up making worse versions of the same kind of movies that they were critical of at the beginning. And he himself made a movie for a major studio, Cop Out, with Bruce Willis and Tracy Morgan, and it didn't go the way he wanted to, but he had an open invitation to do more movies for Warner Brothers. And he had to really deeply soul search, and he came to the conclusion, we should do it ourselves. And he found the money to make a movie for $5 million. And then he took it to Sundance. And he said while they were shooting it, he realized that everybody here is working for free or far less than what they would if a Hollywood studio had hired them. And that if he sold the movie to a studio, in order to get people to go see it, they would have to spend more money than what the movie cost to find an audience for it. And that the end result would be his $5 million film would be turn into a $20 million film that would have to earn $40 million at the box office for it to ever break even. And he, after making like 8 movies, none of his movies had ever been that successful. So he took a risk and he said, wait, I do speaking engagements all over the country. If I just tie my movie screenings into my speaking engagements, we got 5 million right there. And he assumed all that risk. He more than broke even. He controls his masters. So to me, that would be the blueprint if you have visibility of what to do with a film. But I think the mystique of Hollywood is, and it's ironic. I'll get to that in a second. The mystique of Hollywood is that you work for somebody. And what's ironic is in this coronavirus thing, all this talent that in the past you would have to pay for. They're giving all their work away for free. They'll sit on Instagram and chat for 2 hours. They're doing talk shows for free on Instagram and YouTube, and all these people, all this star quality. Will Smith started when he did start his YouTube, but they're trying to figure out a way to migrate over to these free platforms, but they still, The Rock, all these people, but and I guess they get paid money by people to send tweets out or endorse certain products, whatever. But now the whole entire industry is basically collapsed. There's no movie theaters, so I can rightly say it's collapsed. Now all this talent's around, and they have no money coming in, and they're willing to work for free. So that should be a recipe for, let's get together, let's do something together where we can line our own pockets. And this is a perfect time to rebuild or reform something in your own image. If you were to ask me, but I'm just sitting here in a hotel room, I don't know that much. I don't know the ins and outs of it. That's my rant on that. Independent film like Mania. I don't know Mania. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, views. It's a weird economy because views. I mean, the corporate. A lot of these changes that we're getting are corporate minded changes because of fear. So no, I wasn't that concerned about Aunt Jemima at this point, but it seems like everybody has this guilt where they know they've been doing wrong, and they're afraid that some Twitter fiend is going to come after them and accuse them or target them as being racist or sexist or misogynist or what have you. So they're preemptively removing the monuments of racism and hate. I don't know what that means to our collective subconscious. Like, if we're going to be fiending for Aunt Jemima syrup 5 years from now, and whoever has the last case of it with the woman on the bottle is going to be able to sell it to us for more, or what. But it's sort of like some of the stuff that's changing. I don't think anybody was really paying attention to or was asking for, but the amount of guilt involved is amazing. It's sort of like if you got caught stealing and then you just give back everything you stole, But a lot of it is also very symbolic, when they take the statue down of the racist Redskins owner, but then there's no question about, are you going to change the name? Or, you're going to legalize certain drug laws, but then you're not going to free the people that have been in jail or give them compensation for the time served, or even allow them to work legally within the medical marijuana industry. So it's like, if my understanding is, if you grow marijuana illegally, you can't get a license to sell it legally. So it's still a game that is in their control, and as Charles would say, it's optics. I'm not sure. I'm going to try and call him just to see, because give him a call. Rich, well, yeah. So yes, the system. That's really the question. Can you be in it and not of it? And to me, I mean, if you have a way of doing it, I don't quite understand it. I'd love to see how it works. But to me, for Black people to write a petition to white people saying, "Hey, you should spend more money on us," but you're still dependent on them to provide every level of resource, including marketing to the audience, it doesn't seem like you got much of an ask going. If you're in a position of like a Tyler Perry, where nobody was asking for that stuff, and he went out on his own and proved that there was a huge audience that was underrepresented and needed it. And then he worked his own deals to the point where he's enriched himself. That I understand. But to say you're holding the Fourth Friday sequel hostage, or where's our Living Single reboot, you know, that's who controls the intellectual property, and that's a different level. Or even, cut us a check. I mean, I don't know how you get away with that without proving that they don't need you. I mean, I love 50 Cent's book, or You Don't Need Them, pardon me. 50 Cent's Hustle Harder, he points to the idea of perception. Um, Perception is everything. If people think they need you, then they'll go out of their way for you. And that's what the fear factor and all the social media protesting is. It's like, oh my goodness, did you see all those people outside the office? We better do something quick before they come upstairs, Or did you see all the money Tyler made last weekend? We better do something quick, or else he'll get all of it and we'll be left with none. So to say, does that make sense what I'm saying? Um, there's no economic power in begging. It's like the video I put up last month where it's the Native Americans were having a forum, and the guy said, how can we demand anything when we're taking money from the government? How can we get any self-respect or respect from the government if we're accepting any money from them for anything? We have no position of power, because the minute they cut that money off, we're left with nothing. We have to demonstrate that we don't need them in order to leverage this opportunity. We have to inspire the people that are under us to understand that they have power as well. And I think that's what Charles wants to talk about in terms of the election, because so many people are against voting, period, at this point, and it kind of works against the system. If you want the system to collapse, then that's up to you. But if you're trying to affect change within the system, you kind of have to play by their rules. But their number one rule is power. So just seeing if he's there. Um, oh, Alex, 50. I like 50s. Well, every Alexander, every self-help book is exactly the same. You can pick up. He's not interesting. He must. We'll pick up tomorrow or Friday what he has to say. Every self-help book is exactly the same. It's just I think 50 Cent, his memoir, he wrote it as if he was telling his story, and he was Iceberg Slim. Pieces to Weight, feels like an Iceberg Slim book. And the way he writes Hustle Harder, he takes the same things that Tony Robbins would say to you, or any business-minded guru would say to you, but he puts it within his own experience and on a more basic language level, right? So it's going to reach a different level of energy, but it's all the same stuff. I mean, if you pick up one, Think and Grow Rich is the Bible for all of that stuff. Every single book is Think and Grow Rich, remixed. Just like here's my joke. So you say every self-help book is Think and Grow Rich, just remixed, just like Drake's Tootsie Slide is the Hokey Pokey, just done by a light-skinned Canadian. Working on it. Yeah, so we have the capital. I mean, there's enough money. I mean, that's what to travel to see Monique. There's enough money for everybody, but you don't get the respect if you're constantly acting like you don't have enough or that you need something. And the problem with the dynamic within the entertainment game is it's like Charles says, reactionary, not proactive, in the sense that we see an increase when they get accused. We're like, we don't just go out and do it ourselves, and then they say, oh, well, let me help you. And also, because of the waves that things go in, what gets sold or gets marketed tends to be of a certain lane at a time. We never get to see the full tapestry, and when it comes to what is actively in production. And right now is an interesting time because the entire thing basically has collapsed, and more people everywhere, not just Black folks everywhere, are getting their information directly from their devices, right? So that takes the preciousness away from a film going experience. That's what Scorsese was complaining about, was like, this isn't cinema. This is I'm taking in information. This is I'm getting a fix. It's not immersing yourself into anything to sit and watch something on your phone and say you saw it. You may have saw it, but you didn't experience it. And unfortunately, when you have talent locked into the same type of need for attention, need to stay relevant, then you got you got a weird mix of inexperienced talent and veteran talent. Everybody is in this cacophony, and to the casual viewer, it's whatever is entertaining to them. So you, in a way, you lower your own stock, but then a lot of people, their stock is buoyed by the amount of money that gets pumped into their product because they've been heavily invested on. You don't want to see, certain. I'm not going to name names in this case, but a lot of big movie stars are too big to fail. Just like the banks, you're not. You've invested so much into somebody's career. They've invested a lot in relationships that they can absorb bad movies. They're not gonna let that disappear, that soon. And that's the gift and the curse of Hollywood. It's just the unfortunate thing is a lot of people that live in Los Angeles think that they're in Hollywood, that they're part of the system. And if they realize that they had more power, or they had more value than the people whose jobs they're there to support, we could have been had whatever it is a long time ago. But then it goes back to the Kwame Ture. If you're dealing just with the oppression, everybody feels oppressed, but not everybody is in it for the same reasons. And that's not to say that even in the civil rights movement, everybody was in lockstep agreement about what the motives and goals should be. But at the same time, I'm just sitting on the sidelines, guys, and I hear the same complaints, and then I go back in time, and it's been the same complaint since forever. You can go back. Black actors in the '70s, you could almost take the same conversation and weave it in with what David Oyelowo and Idris Elba and Queen Latifah are saying now was being said by Ron O'Neal and Bernie Casey and Vanetta McGee. And back in the '70s, it's the same thing. When we have control of the ball, we don't do enough with it. And at a certain point, it's going to go away. There's no question about it. And it might go away because nobody's filming anything. It might go away because there's not enough money to spread around like they had been. Right now, reading Netflix is starting more reality-based shows because of production. And it wouldn't surprise me shortly if a lot of people that are doing these Instagram lives are going to start getting their own talk shows where they're talking to their friends and basically doing the same live chats that they've been doing on Instagram for free. Somebody will throw a couple of dollars at them and say, hey, can you talk to so-and-so for a half hour on, whatever the cable outlet is. That's how desperate people are for content. So, but until we value ourselves more, it's going to stay the way it is. My opinion. Cooperation, freedom, voting, white man, grandfathers. Crowds by Laban. Okay. A lot of deals being made. I don't know when these movies are coming out. LeBron, Will Smith just scored a check for 136 million with Antoine Fuqua to do a runaway slave story. Mahershala Ali is playing Jack Johnson. I mean, it's more of the same. We're not we're not going into that next realm. People are still risk averse. History, you know. Um, I mean, I'd love to see a Jack Johnson movie, sure, but it's not going to be anything new. You know, Will Smith is a runaway slave unless he learns how to fly into another realm and bring back um, 50 other Ogun warriors from the next phase and overtake the people that held his entire tribe captive. I'm not really sure it's going to be much for me, but more power to Will Smith. You know, I'm listening to a lot of the Doors lately. I just like that was the best part of Black Panther when he went to the ancestral realm. But I you know, like I like a Matrix thing. Like if you're like being whipped, like let's say it's a scene from Roots and you're being whipped, and then just within yourself you just pull 50 warriors out of the fabric of the other dimension, and they just turn, you know, and save you or help you fight. That's a story for me. But um, Jordan Lucas, I'm not up on Jordan Lucas. I didn't like the music video for the Kanye. I like Arthur Jafa a lot, but I didn't think the video did what I thought the song did. And I still ride with Kanye. I don't care what people say. I just think he's a genius. But I understand believe me, I understand. You know, you don't have to. I ride with Kanye because I like his art. I don't like his opinions all the time. But I think, you know, if you're a Kanye fan, you understand the guy is a straight up narcissist and probably a savant that is very good at one or two things extremely well. But you know, speaking, you know, he doesn't speak for all of us. Idi Amin, what Regina's Idi Amin, the person who the Ugandan leader who's been dead for 10 years or 15 years. I mean, you know, he was a tyrant like everybody else. I mean, there's a great movie, Idi Amin, a self portrait. I mean, any African leader, I question Western media's take on it. What's interesting about a lot of them is their desire to oust power, but then you know they have these flagrant lifestyles and end up being tyrants and killing their own people. We haven't got to that point yet where you know the government's pulling people off the street and executing them. They save that. They throw you in jail first, but um you know, tyrannical terrorist state we're living in right now. You know, I just like black people in general. I like people that stand up for themselves, and I like um, people that think differently. But I can't. I don't. You know, anybody with a lot of power is going to abuse their power. So, white or black or yellow or whatever. I mean, we tend to fixate too much on the black white thing in the United States, but there are leaders everywhere that do the same things, and you know, it's just something uh, art has to stand up for. Art can transform the way people think and believe faster, and that's why so much of these governments try to control the media and the propaganda levels to the point because they don't always they want their truth told, you know. So it's just an interesting piece of it. But you know, the main thing is you just take care of yourself, put yourself first, self-preservation, and you know, I want to see everybody win. That's my problem. Unfortunately, not everybody thinks the same way I do. I'd love it if everybody could win, if everybody could step into their own level of truth and feel good every day about whatever it is that they do and being themselves and not feel like if things were different, their lives would be better. You know, I try to appreciate the fact that there's some level of opportunity, and what's been great just about this thing is how much it just grew over time. This is 2006 when we started the channel, and now it's just starting to blossom. So if I'm going to testify about anything, it's just about patience and persistence. And sometimes I get very impatient, but I think over time everything has the ability to pay off for anybody. You just have to, as they say, believe, but also just trust and stay focused and be around good people and listen to them and trust yourself, listen to other people, and don't feel like you've got to make every mistake yourself. That just by observing, I've learned so much. Just by listening to other people, how did you do it? I understand myself better. So that's the beauty of the whole deal. And next, I got to stop. These are delicious, by the way, but I got to stop eating these things and hold myself even more accountable um, as we grow, because I know somebody will pick something out of what I said and try and say I said it something I didn't say. So that's just how people are. I love Antoine Fuqua. Yeah, I'm looking forward to what Antoine Fuqua and Will Smith are going to do. It's just I'm not one for runaway slave movies. God has intervened. Get out. Rapped about Drake. Okay. Did I? Financial literacy. Well, all of this is how do you empower yourself? I like the video we put up the other day explaining institutionalized racism. It's like I just don't have any more breath to defend people's emotion. You can feel whatever you want. I just watched the Russell Simmons interview, and this guy's super zen, but he knows he's not in a position to win because people are locked into their belief systems. And he says, it wasn't his intention to hurt anyone. He just wasn't aware. And he doesn't see things the same way. And I mean, he didn't ask for forgiveness. And that's always the issue, right? In this Christian society, if you don't feel like you did something wrong, there's no reason to ask for forgiveness. But the way we're programmed, we kind of almost want everybody to freaking confess the things that they didn't feel they did. They want to hear the guilty, but to each his own at a certain point. And you don't want to create damage in the process of you growing. But unfortunately, the people that really have a lot, they're programmed to think that they deserve everything. They don't mind. They don't see the harm that they're doing. And then we buy into, I'm drinking out of a plastic bottle that'll be in the trash in half an hour, right? So I'm adding to that. Even though I'm against it, I'm programmed to think that I'm not creating harm. So, we have to be accountable to those things. Have a good night, MG. We're gonna close this off in a second. No super chats. The super chat thing is they won't allow it. There's like 50 forms that you have to fill out, and so they won't allow me to monetize the chats at all. So it's not even a choice. Oh wait, there's some button here. Insert ad. I don't know what that is. They make it very difficult. Open mind, chill. I just try to see how far you can go with this. It's a very interesting time to be living, and it's going to be a really interesting change. 10 years from now, when we look back, hopefully it's with some level of relief. I mean, it's a revolutionary time. Hopefully it's not creating so much harm that we won't see another 100 years on this planet. But it's really to me, this kind of suffering and stress, it just shows you who we are, who you are, who I am. It brings out our true human nature, and I'm okay at this point with me. But I feel like, the biggest thing is that we can't. None of us can pay attention. Human beings cannot pay attention more than one thing at a time, and media knows this, and they know how to control our emotions through that. So I try to be zen and just give things a longer window of time. And next time we're on, Charles, we'll talk about the Trump thing and the election and all those kind of things. I think it's very important that we do participate in the election, even though the choices are kind of crappy. Um, I can't suffer incompetence, so I got to speak up just on that level. I can't. I've worked for bad bosses who are incompetent and cost businesses, and this guy is not a good anything to be running anybody's country. And um, that's all I'll say. I'll wait until Charles says it. So just on that level, it's not about right wing, left wing. It's just if this guy was coaching your football team, he'd have been fired. They got rid of him after game 3. So why people keep making excuses for this? It just says more about them than it does him, because this guy, he's a fraud. He's like the Chip Kelly of politics. And I'm an Eagles fan. Black Lives Matter. Well, I'll let Charles talk about Black Lives Matter. I mean, basically, um, again, going back to Kwame Ture, it's everybody feels the same pressures. It's just everybody has a different solution. What their intention is right now, what I see mainstream media is using Black Lives Matter's words against them, because it's not really a formed leadership. Um, and a lot of people are going on TV saying they basically want to overthrow the government, and that's not going to sit well when you put those kind of sound bites on a Fox News. So they're spinning that narrative against what the core point of Black Lives Matter is, which has nothing to do with overthrowing a government or regime change or anything like that. It's just stop putting knees on people's neck for 8 minutes and film and allowing people to film it. We just get some justice when it comes to policing and fairness when it comes to going to trial. But um, that part disgusts me when you take a complex issue and you turn it into a 3-word statement, and then you put some vitriol behind it where people are triggered to react without thinking. And now there's no mea culpa when it comes to Kaepernick, but all of a sudden everybody's who was in the corner saying, yeah, he's right. Now their jobs are being threatened, their businesses are being threatened, they're on the verge of being out of business. Um, and you say, watch Dave Chappelle, it could be the wrath of God coming in, this nature thing, and just shutting down. All right, no football, no basketball, none of this, and if you don't see a connection, then maybe you're being directed a different way by the one or two things you can pay attention to at a time. But to me, if I subscribe to the belief that everything is connected, and I see what's going on the planet, and then all of a sudden there's no football, you know, it makes me wonder. It's, like a little Arsenio Hall thing. But um, well, yeah, it's the same. Sharpshooter Hill. I think you got to look back at every social movement and period of change. I mean, there's no clear agreement. The question is, what do you bring into the table? Right now, all these changes are basically voluntary on the point from the position of the people in power, right? So how do we leverage the power is the question. And that's why I say look back at Kwame Ture, look back at Bobby Seale, Huey Newton, see how successful they were in their time. You know, they all were essentially shut down by the government because they were seen as fringe, and even by mainstream black people, not everybody was down with the Panthers and Malcolm X. There was a lot of middle class blacks and stuff at the time. So those stories remain relevant and resonant because very little in terms of those issues have changed. If anything, any advance that was given at that time after the death of King has been rescinded to the point where it's worse than it was before. And I think that's what younger people are feeling. They never saw what affirmative action did. They only see the symbolic gesture of having a black president or Jesse Jackson run. You know, that's I think is important. I wish I could put up. There's a really good interview on the Tony Brown channel with Jesse Jackson, where he's talking about black economic power and the need. So those in the '80s, I think, you know, prior to the Cosby Show and all that stuff, I think the Cosby Show is great because it reflected an optimistic, powerful time and a strong black family, but it also put a lot of people to sleep into thinking that you know, that's sort of like, why can't you be like Bill? Why can't you be like Oprah kind of thing? So so it was a gift and a curse for us to get that image, but also made white people feel like the problem had been solved. And clearly it hasn't. And you know, something to be continued. We'll talk about it. Again, any final things? Um, bookend policy. Bookend policing. Flat Earth, I have no opinion. I believe the Earth is round. I'm pretty sure the images that we see, and I've been in airplanes. I'm pretty sure the Earth is round. I'm not concerned about flat earthers, but I do appreciate anybody who expands their realm of thinking. And but I'm more internal. Like, you know, my take isn't whether some physical object has the shape that we've been told it was. It's the things that we can't see, the microscopic or the things that are further away. We all have limited perspective. So to me, it's interesting how the fabric of everything kind of fits together. And then, you know, for me as an artist, where do I put myself in that to help influence these waves of energy that come and go? Um, YouTube's large platform. Well, don't put that into the ether. No one's threatening the channel. I'm saying I can't. I'm not here to cater to everybody. We're we're doing everything according to the rules, but rules can change, and I don't want to cater to what YouTube expects, and I don't want to limit the potential of what the channel is by catering just to the people that offer financial support. To me, that ethically goes against, well, my past experience more than anything. I've done that, and you know, I just feel like we should feel this is limitless, and that this platform, it's not just me, but it's a platform for ideas to be shared or kept archived for time, and people can catch it whenever they want and make whatever they want from it. You know, that's really the role here. And to me, that's information. And information, I feel, should be available to everyone at no charge. You know, that's a disadvantage of school. The better schools, the better quote unquote schools, you have to pay money for. And what YouTube is great at is you can have experiences and learn things that you would have to step into a time machine or spend a lot of money to get the same information. So I don't want to go against that. And I've always seen myself as a creator. So I would love as many people as possible to get on board. And then when it's time for us to really make some money, really make some money, but your love and support, the fact that we got 151 people and 177 thumbs up is enough for me for right now. Linda, write me later. I'm not reading a whole bunch of books. I got like 3 books I got to read soon. I should have brought books up here to show you guys. But I thought Charles would be on, but we're gonna let everybody go now. It's almost 10. Um, Brainwashing. Well, we all have our belief systems. I'm not saying I know everything. I just I try to learn something new every day, and I try to stay open minded. And I try to hang around people that aren't too dogmatic, that I can have a good argument with and not feel bad at the end. But I don't put myself up. If we're talking about information, I don't. I have knowledge, but I'm always open to learning. I'm always interested in other people's perspectives. If they can justify and defend their stance, if they're just saying stuff that they've heard or that they believe, and they don't have any facts to back it up, then that doesn't work for me. But you know, that's why I love Charles so much, because he's a king of barbershop talk. He can barbershop talk you to death, and unfortunately, he hasn't called. So we're gonna let everybody go. I'm somewhat disappointed, but when he texted me, he said he was just getting home and he wasn't 100%. It took a lot of energy out of him today. So um, I will, before I post that we're going to do this, I will confirm with him before I post, and we're going to have the same kind of conversation that I had with you today. We'll have with Charles probably on Friday around the same time. So yeah, everybody, please thank you, Eric B. Thank you. Peace and blessings. Be safe. That's the most important thing. Whatever it is, if it's washing your hands, social distancing, just this is the new normal. The biggest thing I heard, I tweeted it, was Orlando Brown of all people, and he was saying if you're not doing anything for the poor, then coronavirus is always going to be here. So when I heard that, I said, well, this is a new normal, and it's not about, it has to come under control, right? So we have to fight for testing. We have to make sure the people whose job it is to look out for our health, education, welfare are actually doing their job. But at the same time, it's gonna be here forever, because you're not going to eradicate it, because there's no interest in eradicating it. So I would just advise going with your life and be safe. Um, this is I know it affects people personally, so I'm not trying to be callous about it, but we have these kind of things happen in nature as a way of like weeding the herd. It's a purging the weak and the sick. It's letting the leaves fall off so that we can be stronger. And to me, we're seeing some. If I could make a list of who should get it, I would, but that's not fair. But my belief is the people that are smart and wise and clever are who we are. We're the ones that survive through this, and I just want everybody to embrace that idea that they have what it takes to get through this, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and that when we get to a new point of equilibrium, that we're all stronger as a result. So, but everybody is on their own wavelength in terms of what this means. How do we define this water that's coming out of the sky? And it's not my job to tell you how to feel or think. It's just good that we have a place that we can congregate and talk. So, well, Reggie, all right, all right, okay. I tried to answer some questions. Um, well, it's gonna change. You just have to don't stop your life. Is my point, Gantz, because you, they want poor people to suffer, and they're until that problem gets addressed. That's what Orlando was saying. Until the problems of helping everybody gets addressed. If the cure is only going to go to the people that have the money, then we're always going to have it. And if the people that don't have money are the same people that we rely on to bring us our food, to do all the service work, and we're still treating them like crap, then there's always going to be this undercurrent of illness, and it's just come to the fore. And that's not to say that we can't address it and fix it. It's just right now, human nature is saying we don't care enough. So I'm just saying, don't let that interfere with your ability to continue to move forward in whatever it is. And, you have to find the equilibrium within yourself that allows you not to have fear of going out and be cautious, but the narrative that only certain types of people can be affected by this and you're not in danger and all this other stuff, that's where you're seeing all the flare-ups, right? Like I talk to people all the time, they're like, well, I'm not going to get it because I'm not black. And I was like, I remember when they were saying that same crap about HIV, and you see what happened. So I'm not asking for a coronavirus poster child, but we certainly have taken a breath from it, and a lot of people think that they're immortal all of a sudden, or that this is not an issue for them. And I'm saying that this issue is the thing. The way I see it, it's illuminated all the issues that have not been dealt with in the last 4 years, 4 centuries. So let's get it together. Okay, so yeah, tax day is coming up. Get your money, pay your bills. Keep your housing together. Alex is out. Um, that's all I got. Thank you, Cosmo, and thank you, Alex. It's dark outside now, and I gotta feed the cat. All right, what's the opinion of white allies? It's everybody's problem. I mean, I don't think black people created the problem for sure, but we certainly fuel into it, and it's our perception and it's how we're treated. And, um, if, I was saying the other thing is a double standard. You could have what gets the attention, it's like, that's the danger. It's like you could have 50 black people getting hit over the head by cops and it doesn't make the news, but one old white guy getting hit on Twitter, that becomes everyone's conversation. So it's just perception. It's just what's important to you. And then when we start retweeting that, and we're not talking about Breonna Taylor as much, then we buy into that cowboy and Indian myth, that war movie myth, like, for you got to kill 20 Indians, and one white person. Custer's the name we remember, but we don't remember any of the names of the Indians that were killed in that battle. So I think it's just important to understand as much as we can what's going on, and that it's not anything new. That's and that your job is to survive however you can. And now that people are more aware, be accountable to yourself and the powers that be. All right, appreciate you. I need to finish this. I appreciate it. Peace and blessings. Thank you, everybody. All right, stay. I'll let the chat go over. All right. Thank you.